Ancient Egyptian texts mention a people variously known as Habiru or Shasu, who dwelt near the Jordan River. Around 1200 BC, they formed themselves into a violent sect, with complex rituals designed to set them apart from their fellow tribesmen. Entering the highlands of Canaan, they began a campaign of genocide against a people quiet and unsuspecting. Their god was a man of war. Yahweh was his name.
Hebrews, from the God of War.
They call themselves Hebrews, meaning to traverse or to pass over. This suggests their origin lay elsewhere, perhaps east of the River Jordan, where dwelt the Midianites, a confederacy of desert tribes worshipping many deities, including Yahweh, the God of Abraham. Eventually, Yahweh became their chief god, and much later, their only god. By their own account, the Hebrews formed themselves into a violent sect with complex rituals. This included circumcision, purification rites with fire, water, and burnt animal offerings. Each of these customs followed precise patterns of observance. Failure to adhere was considered a sin. They were strictly forbidden to intermarry with other tribes. Do not intermarry with them. Do not give your daughters to their sons, or take their daughters for your sons. The arbitrary murder of anyone who transgressed that rule was sanctioned. They saw themselves as an elite community, an idea reinforced time and again in their doctrine. For you are a people holy to your God. The Lord your God has chosen you out of all the peoples on the face of the earth to be His people, His treasured possession. This bred a pattern of confrontation in their relations with others. Do not be afraid of them. The Lord, your God Himself, will fight for you. Yahweh was the God of war. The Lord is a man of war, who dwelt among them in the Ark of the Covenant, a wooden box that they carried before them into battle. The Lord goes ahead of you like a consuming fire. He will destroy them. The Ark symbolized the agreement between God and Abraham, whom the Hebrews call their ancestor. Adoration of this being was absolute and unconditional. Deviation or respect towards any other deity was forbidden and punishable by death. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God. So also was any act or word deemed insulting to the divine being. The Hebrews were urged to attack and destroy those who did not share their beliefs, break down their altars, smash their sacred stones, and burn their sacred groves with fire, cut down the idols of their gods, and wipe out their names from those places. You will pursue your enemies, and they will fall by the sword before you. The order applied equally to those who did not worship Yahweh or those who did worship Him, but also other gods. They made war first on their neighboring Midianite tribes, treating them with extraordinary viciousness. They fought against the Midianites as the Lord had commanded, and slew every man. They captured the Midianite women and children, and took all the Midianite herds, flocks, and goods as plunder, burned all the towns where the Midianites had settled. Under the leadership of Moses, the creed of Hebrew exclusiveness was brutally applied. When his victorious warriors took captive women and children to the camp, Moses was furious. He rebuked them, saying, "Have you allowed all the women to live?" Then he commanded, "Kill all the boys and kill every woman who has slept with a man." And he sanctioned the abuse of those who remained. But save for yourselves all the girls who are virgins. They continue to harass and slaughter the inhabitants east of the Jordan River. And the Lord our God delivered him, king of Heshbon, over to us, and we struck him down, together with his sons and his whole army. At that time, we took all his towns and completely destroyed them, men, women, and children. We left no survivors. Arriving as invaders to a people quiet and unsuspecting, they put them to the sword and burned down their city. This was the land promised by God to Abraham. The goal was to destroy the entire population and replace them with the chosen race. Do not look down on them with pity." Thus the killing increased, and they brutally destroyed all who breathed, just as the Lord God commanded. One by one, the cities and towns were razed together with their inhabitants. They devoted the city Jericho to the Lord, and destroyed with the sword every living thing in it, men and women, young and old, cattle, sheep, and donkeys. They hanged the rulers, sometimes after torture or dismemberment. The ferocity of the destruction bears the barbarians' malice towards civilization and its trappings. The Lord said to Moses, "Drive out all the inhabitants, destroy all their pictures and their idols, and demolish all their high places." The decision to exterminate the population of the Promised Land was part of a deliberate policy. Outside that territory, the Hebrews could enslave the inhabitants of any city that surrendered peacefully and massacre the men if they resisted. But in Canaan, the slaughter was mandatory, whether the inhabitants submitted or not. The Holy Land was reserved exclusively for the holy people. Yahweh gave the Hebrews a sinister warning that if they faltered in their duty and left any alive, they would suffer a similar fate themselves. For when the Lord your God has delivered them over to you, and you have defeated them, then you must destroy them totally. Make no treaty with them, and show them no mercy. But if you do not drive out the inhabitants, then I will do to you what I plan to do to them.